Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 1 through 10. But we're starting a new chapter today called Creation of the Universal Form. So, who remembers what we were talking about yesterday in class? Anyone? Yeah. What was happening yesterday in class? Anna? Can we use the mic?
Hare Krishna. We were hearing about how being fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord and taking shelter of a spiritual master is how we become enlightened with knowledge.
Jai. And who were the people speaking about the lotus feet of the Lord? If anyone remembers.
Is it still Vidura and Maitreya?
It's still Vidura and Maitreya, but there's a conversation. Prabhupada Priya?
The demigods were offering prayers to be able to do their services nicely in the
Yes.
cosmic administration. So they were trying to butter up the Lord so he would empower them.
Yes, so the demigods were, as Prabhupada Priya was saying, they were praying to the Lord, and they had all these very nice prayers. And all this happened after it was talking about how the different elements were coming from Krishna, and his glance would enact them. And so that's one of the themes of today's class, is how the Lord is kind of the cause of all causes, the agent in creation. Someone want to read the first text?
Rishi Maitreya said, "The Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies, such as Mahatattva."
Okay, so what is this suspension of progressive creation we're talking about? Does anyone remember? We covered this on Wednesday. It's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but any idea, Anna? Yes, so everything goes dormant, everything goes absorbed within Krishna. And on Wednesday, Prabhupada Priya made this nice point that we were reading in the purport that just like a husband with the wife wants to wake up the wife, similarly, Krishna, he wants to wake up the material nature. And why does he want to wake up the material nature? Anyone remember? He misses the conditioned souls. He wants to give them a chance to come back to him, a chance to use this material world as a reformatory facility. All right, text 2.
The Supreme Powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with Goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements.
Okay, so does anyone have an idea how Krishna enters into things? How does he enter? Does he actually go into, what does it mean that he enters them? Any thoughts? It's described, he glances at things, and that's his energy entering into them. And so everything is kind of dead matter until the Lord exerts his influence upon it. And then the goddess Kali, or Durga, is the material nature. Let me see. We have this nice picture. And we see Krishna, his glance is what enacts the material nature. And this is Kali, Durga, similar. All right, back to... And he actually enters into them. It's Paramatma, right? As Paramatma, he also enters into every atom. So, yeah, thank you, Prabhupada Priya.
Text 3. Thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep.
Okay, so everyone wakes up after Krishna reboots the computer, Jose?
4. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form, or the Vishvarupa body of the Lord, came into existence.
So, we're talking about, this chapter is called The Creation of the Universal Form, so this is giving us the lead up to the universal form.
As the Lord, in his plenary portion, entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest.
The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him.
The total energy of the Mahat Tattva in the form of the gigantic Virat Rupa divided himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively.
So this is kind of what Prabhupada Priya was talking about in that, who's the second consciousness within the body? It's the super consciousness, it's Paramatma. So this verse is talking about how Krishna divided himself into the consciousness of the living entities. Next verse.
The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation, which thus flourishes.
The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1 in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, and he is the one heart where life energy is generated.
Okay, text 10.
The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding.
All right. Now we're going to do the Sanskrit for this. All right, text 10. Saran Vishva Shujamisho Vigyapita Madhokshaja Virajam Atapat Svena Tejasai Sham Vivridtaye Smaram Vishva Shujamisho Vigyapitam Adhokshaja Virajam Atapat Svena Tejasaisham Vivridtaye. Please chant. Smaram Vishvam Jamisho Vigyapitam Smaran Vishwashujamisho Vigyapitam Adhokshaja Vishwashujamisho Adhokshaja Virajamatapatsvena Smaran Vishwasujamisho Vigyapitam Adhokshaja Virajamatapatsvena Tejasaisham Vivridtaye. Anyone else? Okay. Synonyms. Smaran, remembering. Vishwashujam, of the demigods, entrusted with the task of cosmic creation construction. Ishaha, the Supreme Lord. Vigyapitam, is paid for. Adhokshaja, Virajam, universal form. Atapat, considered thus. Svena, by his own. Tejasa, energy. Esham, for them. Vivridtaye, for understanding. The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, He thought to himself, and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. Someone want to read the first paragraph?
The impersonalists are captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. They think that the control behind this gigantic manifestation is an imagination. Intelligent persons, however, can estimate the value of the cause by observing the wonders of the effects. For example, the individual human body does not develop from the womb of the mother independently, but because the living entity, the soul, is within the body. Without the living entity, a material body cannot automatically take shape or develop. When any material object displays development, it must be understood that there is a spiritual soul within the manifestation. The gigantic universe has developed gradually, just as the body of a child develops. The conception that the transcendence enters within the universe is, therefore, logical. As the materialists cannot find the soul and the supersoul within the heart, similarly, for want of sufficient knowledge, they cannot see that the Supreme Soul is the cause of the universe. The Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avan Manasa Gocharaha, beyond the conception of words and minds.
Due to a poor fund of knowledge, the mental speculators try to bring the Supreme within the purview of words and mind. But the Lord refuses to be so intelligible. The speculator has no adequate words or mind to gauge the infinity of the Lord. The Lord is called Adokshaya, or the person who is beyond perception by the blunt, limited potency of our senses. One cannot perceive the transcendental name or form of the Lord by mental speculation. The mundane PhDs are completely unable to speculate on the Supreme with their limited senses. Such attempts by the puffed-up PhDs are compared to the philosophy of the frog in the well. A frog in the well was informed of the giant Pacific Ocean, and he began to puff himself up in order to understand or measure the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean. Ultimately, the frog burst and died. The title PhD can also be interpreted as plow department, a title meant for the tillers in the paddy field. The attempt of the tillers in the paddy field to understand the cosmic manifestation and the cause behind such wonderful work can be compared to the endeavor of the frog in the well to calculate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean.
The Lord can reveal himself only to a person who is submissive and who engages in his transcendental loving service. The demigods controlling the elements and ingredients of universal affairs prayed to the Lord for guidance, and thus he manifested his gigantic form as he did at the request of Arjuna.
Okay. Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine. Okay. So I really like this purport because it introduces this concept that Srila Prabhupada talks about a lot. He says, the frog philosophers. And so we just learned who's the frog. The frog is this frog in a well, and this other frog comes and tells him, dude, there's the Pacific Ocean out there. It's huge. And the frog goes, oh, how big is it? Is it this big? And he puffs himself up, and the other frog is like, no, it's like way bigger. Is it this big? And then eventually, as Prabhupada wrote, the frog explodes and dies. So this section, I thought it was talking a lot about how we can try to understand Krishna. So what does it say at the end about understanding Krishna? What is kind of the key that Prabhupada mentioned? He reveals himself to those who are engaged in his transcendental loving service. Jai the submissive. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, he says, Vidya, no. He says, what's the one where approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively? Tadviti pratena pariprasthana sevaya. So, it's talking about submission. Basically, we've identified the two ways of which we can understand Krishna. Either going up, like the frog, we say, okay, I'm going to try to wrap my mind around this. I'm going to try to understand this through my own mind. And thus, the frog can't, because Krishna is so great. There's a name of Krishna that's referred to in the purport. Does anyone remember? Adhokshaja. It was also in the Sanskrit. And it means that he's not perceivable by material senses. We can't perceive the Lord through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our tongue, our mind. And that's why he's called Adhokshaja. But then also we see Krishna, he appears in the form of the deity. And so that's his mercy upon us, is that he, basically he says, I know you can't see me because you have material eyes, so thus I will appear in this stone form, and you can see stone, and so you'll be able to see me in that way. You can't taste me, but there's prasadam, which we offer to Krishna. And Haribo Jai Prasadam. We can hear the holy name, we can chant the holy name. So yeah, I just thought that was nice that he's imperceivable by material senses, but he comes to help us in so many ways. We also talked about the demigods. Krishna is the super soul of all the demigods. He's within all of their hearts, and so kind of a theme I noticed of these past few verses is just how everything is done by Krishna. Krishna is the only way that anything gets done in this material world. And the demigods, as we were discussing in Nanda Brajru's class, the difference between the demigods and the demons is that the demigods, they take the help of the Lord when they're in trouble. We see a lot of times a demon comes, and who do they go to? Vishnu, yeah. That's why Krishna appeared on this world, is because there were so many demons, so many atheists, and so many large armies that were tormenting the earth that they went to Vishnu to ask for help. Similar with Hiranyakashipu, similar with all the great demons, is that they're terrorizing the demigods, and they ask Krishna to appear. I was thinking Prabhupada also makes a parallel with Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Who remembers what Prabhupada was saying about Arjuna? He mentions him very briefly at the end. This is one of the, I think this is the first time that Krishna shows the universal form, and Prabhupada is saying also that he showed Arjuna the universal form for Arjuna's understanding as well. So that was interesting. Does anyone have any thoughts on how the universal form helps people's understanding of Krishna? Why did Krishna show it to Arjuna, show the universal form? Nrsingarupa Prabhu.
It's showing, if Arjuna could possibly maybe see Krishna as his friend, and in that capacity with the universal form, it's a little hard to mistake that for just like my buddy or my friend. You see the entire creation, everything within Krishna.
Okay, yeah. Anna? Oh.
Just something small too is Arjuna asks to see it. He asks to see the form, and because of this loving relationship that they have, the affection that Krishna has for him, he revealed it.
I was thinking to put into perspective how big he is.
Yeah.
And put into perspective how much he's everything. Like they say, many mouths, many arms, many there's like fire. There's all kinds of like insane things, like things that you wouldn't even imagine, especially from Arjuna's perspective. Like just thinking of as Krishna as his friend. Okay, maybe he can imagine that he's Vishnu, but he can't imagine him like that. So it totally blows his mind.
Prabhupada Priya?
Also, that's in the previous chapter, chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going through the list of, he's telling Arjuna about his opulences. That of this, I'm that, and of all the great things, I'm the greatest. And, so then Arjuna's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Can you show me? Like, people aren't going to believe this. Can you demonstrate it? Like, to prove it? So that, people who don't have faith in you will actually accept you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Nandaraj?
In the previous chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, it speaks about how Krishna is the creator and how personable he is in the creation. And so a lot of people like to look at the universe and they see these laws and they see this energy and they appreciate that the Brahman effulgence basically of Krishna. However, when you get to see Krishna show himself in the Vrat Rupa, you see, oh, okay, there is, all this energy, these laws of nature, these, the movements of how everything's moving seemingly by itself, but no, there's a person behind it. And so he shows this Vrat Rupa to show that there is a person, there is a, behind the creation, the universe.
Oh, got two more.
Also, the Virat Rupa is important because it helps us understand that everything is Krishna. The whole material universe, it is Krishna. So the problem is that we see some things as separate from Krishna, like, okay, here's God, and here's the material world that I'm going to enjoy. But it's actually like, no, that's God too. So you can't get away from him. Like, you're just dealing with Krishna and his energies. So, yeah, that helps us to understand that there's nothing separate from Krishna. It's impossible to be separate from Krishna, so we may as well just surrender to be connected to Krishna.
Jai. Hari. Prabhu.
So another thing that I was thinking about when Krishna shows Arjuna the universal form is I just keep thinking about how he said, I give you divine eyes, right? And so to me that kind of made me think about how there's so many people that say like, show me God, right? And it's they want to rely on their senses to see God. And so the universal form is a way for people to like see God as like the rivers or as like the trees or whatever. But also, like to me, it was a way of like understanding that we can't see Krishna unless he gives us the ability to see him. Like he tells Arjuna, I give you divine eyes, right? And so it's a way to kind of understand that Krishna is like always seeing and at the same time not seeing.
Jai, thank you. So yeah, I kind of had a lot of thoughts on that, but I was thinking it's also very similar that we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna lists off these things, I'm the splendor of the splendid, of secrets I am silence, and in the previous chapter, Krishna was just creating everything. Krishna was just entering into the fire and the earth, and so I was kind of thinking in both of these, he shows that I'm non-different from these. This is my creation, but also it's within my universal body. And Prabhupada Priya kind of had a very nice point that Krishna says in the second canto that whatever appears to be separate from me, know that to be Maya. And so then he shows that actually nothing is separate from me. And really I am within everything. And this is all just my energy. This is all just my manifestation. And so I was thinking this is how he's helping the demigods understand him, is that they see all these things being created. They see the different elements and stuff. And then Krishna shows them that this is all within my body. This is all me. And even the demigods themselves, it's described that the demigods are within the body of the universal form. So he's giving them this perspective before they begin their task of creation. So I thought that was cool of how, he gives them like a reality check before they begin their task of managing the universe. So it's 8:21. Does anyone have any more thoughts, more comments on this? We talked about the frog speculators. We talked about the universal form and its relation to the demigods and its relation to understanding. We talked about Krishna entering into everything. So, yeah. Oh, we got 4. I saw Chuta Govinda for his hand first.
I think another point where Krishna showed the universal form was in the future there may be so many people like we see today claiming to be God. The check is, can they show the universal form?
Jai.
I have a question. In this translation, it says the Supreme Lord is the super soul of all demigods. It seems to me that the super soul in this case isn't Paramatma. It seems like it's another way of saying super soul. So I'm wondering if that's the case or if I'm misunderstanding.
The only thing I can really think of is Krishna said in just like a few texts back that he's like the heart of the. It says he's the heart of the universe. He's the heart of the world. But I guess like literally he is in their hearts. He is the super soul in their hearts. But also he's like the revolving factor of what the demigods are doing. Does anyone have any other thoughts on Nanda Braj's question? His question was, what does it mean that like the Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods? Is, I guess,
My specific question is, it doesn't seem to me like we're specifically talking about Paramatma. Usually when we say super soul, we mean Paramatma in the heart. But in this case, it doesn't seem like, at least to me, and I'm wondering if maybe my perception's wrong, or if this is speaking about Paramatma, super soul in the universe. It is Paramatma?
Jai?
But I don't see it as saying in the heart. That's why I don't see it saying the heart here. I see the Supreme Lord is the super soul of all of demigods. Super soul? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe he's talking about the super soul of like Prabhupada Vishnu or in that case. It doesn't seem like it's Paramatma in this case, but I could be wrong. What's the...
Yeah, I was thinking it's both.
What's the Sanskrit for super soul?
Yeah.
Is that maybe what it's coming from, more of the supreme controller, not the super soul? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. What about Priya?
My point was just, I liked what Prabhupada said in the beginning of the purport to the verse, the purport that we read, was that Krishna refuses to be intelligible to the speculators. I just like the way Prabhupada put that he refuses. It's like they're trying to approach him and he's just like, nope, sorry, you're not going to know me by that way. It's just very personal. It's not, he could have said, that the speculators, no matter how hard they try, they can't understand the Lord because he's beyond it. It's just like, no, Krishna refuses to allow himself to be known by that means. And then, but he's very open to be understood by bhakti. So it's just sweet. I just thought it was very personal.
Yeah. I had a thought too on that. Is that's kind of how people will react. If you're trying to get to know someone without a personal relationship with them, it's kind of like stalkerish or weird or like a paparazzi or something. And so even if you try to approach them after that, they're going to be like, you're like weird, get away from me. They'll rather you from the start just approach them to know them personally.
I was just thinking about the flow of Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna is speaking throughout Bhagavad Gita. Like in the first chapter, Arjuna is representing all of us, the conditioned souls who are lost in the material perplexities. Then the second chapter, you come to the point where you understand, that I need to surrender to the representative of the Lord. Then if the basic knowledge is given, the difference between matter and spirit. Then third chapter further progresses, Karma Yoga, and then Jnana Yoga, and then there is Dhyana Yoga, 7th and 8th and 9th. So now Krishna is going to demonstrate the object of meditation for those who are trying to transcend this material world, right? So starts with 10th chapter, as Prabhupada mentioned, right? So you start looking Krishna in all the material objects, right? If you're drinking water and the taste of the water, then he shows further step, universal form. Right? So Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan. So Brahman, how he is the supreme Brahman, all pervading. Because people think God is great. So how great God is, that is what he's showing to that. And then for those who are going one step beyond, here is the four-handed form when Arjuna prays that I'm scared of seeing this particular form. So then Krishna mercifully shows him the four-handed Vishnu form. Then finally, for all the devotees, he comes back to the two-handed. For the devotees.
Jai. Thank you. What a nice point. Anything else? Any comments, criticisms, concerns, questions? Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's like a question, but it's kind of interesting how to see that Maya, it's like anything outside of Krishna, and at the same time there's nothing outside of Krishna. And it makes me think that Maya is like the actions or like the actions of not being Krishna consciousness. So even in this material world, anything that is not Krishna consciousness is Maya, or like it's not doing like it's not done for devotional service. It's God of Maya. But do you have any?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. It's all about your perception.
Yeah, and that leads me like to another question, like what is the biggest illusion or the root of the illusion?
Yeah, that we're the supreme enjoyer.
It's kind of amazing that this illusion, Krishna's so kind that if we want to perceive him as not there, that he'll provide us a way not to even see, to notice him. So this is how powerful his illusion, Maya energy is that if we do not want to perceive him, he will cover it in a way that we won't perceive him. And he'll give us as much information we want to see that, oh, God is not there. That's how kind he is, that we want, we desire. So for your second question, the original illusion is that we're separate from Krishna. But it's quite amazing because, like you said, how can we ever be separate from Krishna? But he says, okay, here's some, here's exactly, right, an illusion.
Yasingara Prabhu, last comment.
This point is always, for me, it's like a father. This point is always really amazing to me because I think about if my children said, Dad, I want to enjoy separately from you. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I want to be the center of my world, and I don't even want to know you exist. That I would then buy them a nice house and give them everything they need and just disappear from their life to give them a chance to like figure it out and come back. Like and Krishna loves us so much, so we're leaving him, right? And it's like, that must be hard for him. He's a person, right? Like, but he's like so merciful. He's like, okay, I don't want you to, but if you really want to, like, go for it. And also like, I'm gonna let you completely forget that I even exist. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just blows my mind.
And it's amazing how like he intentionally, like he deliberately does things just for this, like he goes out of his way to do things in such a way to make sure that atheists can not know he's God. Like for example, when he departs from this world, actually he just like in his own body, his eternal spiritual body, he just like floats back to, Goloka. But he enacts this whole other like side pastime, that the hunter and the arrowhead that's from the cannon, the iron ball that is cursed, and he makes an arrowhead, and this hunter comes along and shoots him in the foot, and he dies, and his body, it's just like, and Prabhupada explains that Krishna enacts this whole thing just so people who want to think that he's an ordinary person can go on thinking that he's an ordinary person, and he just got shot and killed and died like anybody else. It's just nuts, right? That Krishna like creates the whole drama just to keep people in a state of bewilderment.
The last part of it that I forgot, and you reminded me of it as you were saying, is that just the part of allowing us to completely forget him. Like, because if, like I decided I really didn't like somebody in my life, but they loved me so much, and I just pushed them away, I would still remember like, oh, but they love me so much, and I'd feel like I'd want to like maybe try to make it work out or figure it out. But if you really want to enjoy separately from me, I'll make all of the arrangements for it, and I'll allow you to completely forget me. Like, I couldn't do that to somebody that I love. Like, how, like, it's just such yeah.
Okay, last.
I was thinking that's why it's so hard to make devotees, is because they really don't want, they're in this mindset that they don't want to be Krishna conscious, they want to forget Krishna, and Krishna is covering them over to the extent that, when we approach them in the street, they're just like, no, not that, So, in order for us to be able to, like, our desire to make them Krishna conscious has to be stronger than their desire to forget Krishna. And then, Krishna will be like, all right, well, I have to go with the devotee's desire because it's so intense. Because their desire to forget Krishna is also very strong. And then puts Krishna in a tricky situation. Like, all right, well, they're both desiring opposite things. How am I going to fulfill this? So you have to have a very strong desire and make a very strong effort, and then hopefully, but at the end of the day, if they're just not ready to be Krishna conscious, then what are we going to do?
All right, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha.